everyone. Welcome to my channel. Today we are diving into myths, legends, and folktales from Latin America. And the book is known as Golden Tales by Lulu de la Cre. This book is specifically from archive.org. I do not own it. Let's get into this. Introduction. The Americas were inhabited by scores of different native tribes when the Spaniards arrived in 1492. Each Indian tribe was a nation unto itself, with its own culture and language. Among them were the hospitable Taino Indians, who had established themselves in the islands of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, which today contains the countries of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. Also among them were the Zapotec Indians, who were master builders living in Mexico. There were the Muisca Indians from Colombia, who were renowned as goldsmiths, and there were the Inca, who had built a great empire spanning Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. First in search of wealth for the royal treasury, and later with the hope of converting the native people to Christianity, the Spaniards changed the base and character of the Americas in ways that are still felt today. Part of their legacy is the Spanish language, part is their Catholic religion, and part is their European culture, which has blended in many degrees with each different native culture. Today, Latin America possesses a wealth of both pre-Columbian myths from the different native tribes and legends and folktales that evolved after the Spanish arrival. In the following pages, you will find 12 golden myths, legends, and folktales filled with beauty and magic that reflect this fascinating and colorful history. Give yourself up to a voyage of wonder, starting in the Caribbean, then traveling southward to Bolivia. Sample the lore that first originated with the Taino, the Zapotec, the Muisca, and Inca. Then see how it changes as it blends with the Spanish culture to become part of the Latin American literature we know today. Here we have the map of South America, the Caribbean, and Central America. And Central America is made up of Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. And South America is Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru. This is Chile, Bolivia, Paraguay, Argentina, and Uruguay, Trinidad and Tobago. The Lesser Antilles. And once we come to the Caribbean, we have Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, which we know today as the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, and the Bahamas. And as we can see, all the different native tribes are color-coded, so purple is where the Tainos actually originated from, which is mostly Cuba. Jamaica, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas. The Zapotec Indians in Mexico, the Muisca, were basically spread out through most of South America and Central America, and the Inca, mostly found in Chile. In Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia. Exactly. The next page takes us to the first myth, which is called From the Lands of the Taino. And it's about the Taino people, the Taino tribe. The Taino Indians were the native people of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Cuba, Jamaica, and the Bahamas. They were called Taino because several members of the tribe said that word to Columbus to indicate they were not aggressive like other tribes from the nearby islands. Taino means good or noble in Arahuaco, their native language. The inhabitants of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola were the most advanced culturally among the Taino. They were accomplished farmers who lived in permanent villages and were governed by a chief or cacique. Maybe I didn't pronounce this well, but forgive me. I don't really know the Arahuaco language at all, so I'm just trying my best. Please bear with me. It has been chronicled that there were more than 600,000 Tainos in the Caribbean around the time of Columbus's arrival. However, they no longer exist, having perished due to forced labor, wars, and European diseases to which they were not immune. Today, the presence of the Taino people can still be felt. Some of their words commonly used in the Spanish language are still spoken in areas where the Taino lived. They are present in the carvings of wood, bone, and shell, and the stonework and pottery they left behind, and also in a number of food crops which they introduced to the Europeans. And as the Spaniards had freely intermixed with the Taino women, they left behind many mixed-race children. But perhaps the Taino spirit is felt the most in the welcoming nature of the Caribbean people. How the sea was born. A Taino myth. In the mists of ancient times, when the world was new and filled with the earliest Taino gods, there was Yaya. Yaya was the essence, the origin of life, the creator. Yaya was the great spirit. He had a wife and a son who was named Yael. The three of them lived together in peace. Yael was an obedient son who did everything he was told. But when the boy grew up, things changed. He had learned to think for himself and did not always agree with or even like what his father, the Great Spirit, told him. In fact, Yael became such a strong-willed boy that he stopped following Yaya's commands altogether. He did what he pleased when he pleased. He talked back to his father and showed such great disrespect that his father lashed out in anger. "Leave home at once," the wounded god told his son, "and do not return for 4 moons." So it was done. Yael left, and after 4 months, he returned home. But this was not enough to heal Yaya's deep torment, and he killed his turbulent spirited son. With great anguish and sorrow, Yaya collected his hut, and that is where they remained. As time passed, Yaya longed to see his son again, so one day, with his wife by his side, he took down the cord and they peeked inside. To their amazement, the bones had disappeared. Instead, swimming inside the bowl were many fish of all shapes, sizes, and colors. There were big fish, small fish, thin fish, fat fish, silverfish, goldfish, and rainbow-colored fish too. At first, they didn't know what to make of this. They gave it a great deal of thought, and as the fish were fresh and plentiful, they decided to eat them. But for every fish they ate, another grew back in its place. Nearby, in the stillness of the air, a piercing scream was heard. Then a second scream followed, then a third, then a fourth. Mother Earth, Itiba, Kahupapa, had given birth to 4 identical babies, 4 divine children. Itiba's firstborn was a rough-skinned baby, so she named him Teminan Karakarakol. Teminan was very curious and fearless. As he was a natural leader, his brothers followed him everywhere. Ever since he was a small boy, Teminan heard stories about Yaya, and he was determined to learn more about the powerful spirit. Once he saw Yaya leave his bohyo, he followed him to his konuko, his vegetable garden. In this garden, Yaya tended his corn and his yucca. Teminan noticed he did this every morning, so early one day, he and his brother waited close by. As soon as Yaya had gone to care for his corn and yucca, Teminan Karakarakol swiftly led his brothers to the hut and snuck inside. There, hanging high from the roof, they discovered the magic cord. When they took it down, they saw fish of all shapes, sizes, and colors still swimming inside. The fish looked so delicious, they could not resist eating them. And just as they were about to finish their delicious meal, Teminan felt the approaching presence of Yaya. Fearing punishment, the children quickly tried to hang the cord back in its place, but the cord slipped and crashed to the ground, breaking into many, many pieces. Suddenly, a torrent of water gushed from the broken cord. It spilled over the earth and covered it with rivers, lakes, oceans, and seas. With the crashing waves and flowing streams came swimming and rushing fish of all shapes, sizes, and colors. There were big fish, small fish, thin fish, fat fish, silverfish, goldfish, and fish of all colors of the rainbow. There was water and fish in infinite quantities. This is how, from Yayo's bones, the sea was born. And here, it is said that Taino Indians would hang a basket containing a man's skull from the boyo's posts. This was done around the time the days grew a little shorter and the sun was not as hot. They did so to have a bountiful fishing season and to remember their slain heroes' bones from which the sea was born. The next folktale is Sengseung, the Indian Girl, a Cuban folktale, 1816. There was once a black man who lived with his old wife and their beautiful daughter. They lived together in a hut made of stalks and palm tree leaves, which they'd recently built on a picturesque site near Ascension was the young girl's name, but her parents had lovingly nicknamed her Singseong. Her skin, like her father's, was the color of rich, aromatic coffee, but her facial features displayed a mixture of three races: white, black, and Indian. In fact, she was often called the Indian girl because of her long, black, silky hair that was tightly woven into long braids that fell gracefully over her shoulders. Although her exquisite beauty had made more than one young man fall in love with her, she had developed a strong and arrogant disposition. There was one suitor in particular that Sension's parents strongly disliked, and it seemed that the more they disliked him, the more the couple wanted to be together. It was to keep Sension far away from this persistent young man that her parents had moved to their current home in Sagua La Grande. But it wasn't long before the boy discovered where his true love was hidden, and he rushed to see her. For many days they secretly met by the grove next to the lagoon, spending long hours exchanging words of passion and looks filled with desire. One afternoon, Sension's mother went to the lagoon for some water. As she was about to leave, she overheard some familiar voices by the grove. She looked around, and to her astonishment, she discovered the two lovers. "How can you disobey your mother like this?" the old woman asked in a voice that trembled with sadness and indignation. When the boy heard her harsh words, he left quickly, burning with shame. But Sension did not do the same. As her mother spoke, she felt her blood boil and her heart stirred with fury and anger. "Mamaita, you have humiliated me in front of my boyfriend," she screamed. "You will not do that again." And without even thinking, she opened her right hand and slapped her mother across the face. "Wretched child," the old woman whispered, her eyes welling up with tears, "God shall punish you." And as these words were spoken, a most peculiar and mysterious thing happened. Sension's hand stuck to the woman's face. For several days, Sension remained in deep distress until her worried father went to seek the help of a renowned medicine man, the one who was called only for the most urgent cases. When he arrived, he tried everything from potions to prayers, but still nothing worked. "There is no other way," the medicine man said at last. "The hand must be cut off." During the painful operation, Sension did not scream or cry, or even complain. She remained cold and unmoved. When the medicine man finished wrapping her wound in gauze, she got up and without a word walked slowly to the edge of the lagoon. But she didn't stop. She kept right on walking until the waters covered her legs, her torso, her neck, then her face. Thus, she disappeared into the lagoon forever. Soon after, her father died, but her mother lived on for many years. She kept herself busy weaving fine hats made of palm leaves, and the old woman always made sure to hide the left side of her face from view, where Sension's hand, hardened by time, still remained attached until her death. Legend says that every first Friday of the full moon at exactly midnight, Sension rises from